23, when Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill. This meeting will be fully remote, held via Zoom, and you can register on the town's website under CPA. We'll take a roll call to assure us that we have a quorum. MJ,
Here.
Ellie,
Here.
Carolyn,
Here.
Timothy, that's 4 out of 7. We have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:34.
Wayne's coming in right now, Tim.
Oh, good.
Wayne is?
I was just texting him.
Yeah, Wayne's coming in.
Wayne. Thank you, Wayne. Hello, Wayne.
Hello.
Good evening. We've called the meeting to order, so you're all right.
Great. I saw a call to order.
Minutes.
Sorry, folks, I did not get to the minutes after the last meeting.
It's understandable. We'll
Yes,
deal with those next time. Invoices
Yes.
for payments.
there are none invoice or payments.
Perfect. We've got 5 minutes before our first call here. So tonight we have 4 presentations. We've had the Historical Commission's presentation on the clothing collection and its preservation last time. There'll be 5 projects. My thought is that we'll listen to proposals, we'll ask questions, we'll allow public input if there is any after each presentation. In some cases, we may say we want further information, and people will be given an opportunity to come back to us with that at our next meeting, perhaps. But we won't take action on anything until we've sort of completed the discovery process and accumulated all the information. Does that sound all right to everybody?
Yep.
Yep.
Because I imagine there'll be questions that were raised this evening that people might not have answers for, and then we can send them off to do some homework and research.
I'll bring in your 2 first applicants, Tim.
That'd be great. What do we got, 3 minutes? Why don't we take up administrative matters, Powder House article? That's all squared away.
Yes, that's been submitted.
And we expect that to come out middle of this month?
Actually, I think it comes out tomorrow, the 4th, or maybe, I think
Maybe-
so. Yeah, I
okay.
think it's like the first week, and usually around the Wednesday or Thursday, I think is what they're shooting for.
Good. So we're all set with that.
Mhm.
TikTok, 7:38. Hi, Mary.
You're muted, Mary.
Are you
Sorry.
saying something nice to us?
Yeah, I'm saying how my favorite people are here and how great they look in beautiful
Yeah.
December evening.
Yeah, that won't do you any good.
Yeah, I know. I know. Evie was actually going to speak to this.
Evie
given Evie was. Evie is planning on speaking to this unless she's not here, in which case I'll speak to it.
No, we see her.
Oh, she is there. Good.
Yep.
There she is.
We'll give her 2 minutes before
Okay.
that, just so we're on schedule.
All right, I will mute myself and let
Well, we
Evie
look
step
forward
up.
to hearing from you again.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wheeler. I look forward to speaking with you all soon.
Mr. Wheeler was my father. I'm just Tim.
Timmy.
Thank you.
Timmy, yeah.
Timmy had us.
When was the last time someone called you Timmy?
A lot. built low.
Evie, are you ready to speak?
Oh, yeah. Am I on?
No,
Sorry.
Wait, one minute.
Nice
Wow, you
try.
guys are official.
Oh, it's just that, you know, it's published, and if somebody showed up and said, what, you started before I, a member of the public, got to tune in, we'd say, oh,
Maybe one of you could do a song or dance or
we
something.
could have
just
Evie
to-
repeat. It's 7:40.
All right, go.
So
Is that
we
go?
have a proposal from the 1870 Town Hall Committee, and Evie and Mary are here, and Evie's going to start us off explaining what this is all about. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. I'm not sure how much background to give. Would you like a 3-minute
You've got 15
version
minutes
or a
total.
10-minute version?
You've got 15 minutes
10
total.
minutes total. Okay, so I think most of you have been involved long enough to know that the 1870 Town Hall was a vibrant, vital,
No,
fabulous,
Evie, you
um,
keep freezing.
fabulously. So I was involved, right? Oh, shoot.
Try turning your camera
Um,
off. Sometimes it helps.
Am I okay now? Should I try to move?
Carolyn suggested you turn off your camera and just speak to us.
Turn it off?
Turn off your,
Okay,
yeah, try that.
Right. Okay, want to try that?
It's working.
Okay, I'll try that. Okay. So basically for about 10 years we were involved, Mary and Bob McTague and Pat Smith and I were involved in getting that building up and running. And then COVID hit and then things sort of fell apart. So it was a really historical, fully accessible, wonderful building. So we're now getting back involved to sort of reinvigorate the building and get it back to where it was in our minds. And since we did it before, we figure we can do it again. You can watch Mary's face as I talk. That way it's
Her lips aren't moving.
So bottom line is, we're sensing the community's interest in getting that building back online. I know it's been used somewhat this past year or two, but we'd really like to help it get back to its former glory and even more. And so one of the things that we never did really do, and we'd like to do that we never completed, was to get the front of the building easily accessible. So it's completely ADA accessible, the whole building. It has an elevator, it has a driveway and parking, and all that's completely ADA appropriate. But the reality is, 5% of the people can walk up a few stairs if they're nicely placed. And if you look at the application we sent, there's pictures in the back, and everybody knows those granite steps are rather daunting for most people. And so it feels like not an option for most people, if they don't need to use the handicap entrance, which is around the back. So we're proposing working with Austin, who's the people that did the elevator project for us. And they're very familiar with the building, really smart, really creative to design. And so this is where we don't know how to design it, but, work with them. In my mind, it's sort of an angular, I need my hands, Mary, angular, use your hands. Sort of maybe up the corner. So it sort of goes from the sidewalk, sort of towards the building. We don't know what it's going to look like, but basically our hope and what we'd like to do is to make some beautiful stairs that are perhaps lower in, what's that called, rise, like whatever regular rise is, but then deep enough, so people feel really comfortable with good handrails. So the 90% of people can just feel like they're welcomed into the building and can easily get in from the main parking area, which is the center of our town. I think that's it.
And to add to that, the building analysis that was done of buildings in town talked about how there, a couple of the granite steps actually move when you walk on
Mm.
them. And the stairwell that goes up Faith Lindsay's shared driveway with the 1870, and those stairwells that go up to that side, the railing actually is a little bit shaky. And as I personally have talked to a lot of seniors in town, they don't feel like they need to use the handicapped accessibility, and yet they would really like better stairs and a better railing to walk the 5 or 6 steps into the building.
Great. Questions from the committee?
Can I guess I have, oh, go ahead, Carol.
I was just gonna say, the pictures, are they, I don't see them as part of the attachment on the application.
They're on the last page and the second to last page, Carolyn.
I only see 2 pages, unless I'm looking at the wrong file.
Did it not all come through?
All I have is 2 pages, the 2 pages of the application.
That's
No,
how
'cause
I
this-
saw it too.
Oh, I apologize, because there's actually 4 to this application. Let me see
So-
if,
So the first picture is the front of the building from the street, which doesn't have a great deal of detail, but of course, I think most of us are familiar with the granite steps that lead up to the main entrance. And then the second 2 pictures are from the corner of Faith's driveway, the first one, and then from looking at those cement steps that go up to the portico. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps initially to the walkway in front of the building, and then you go up another couple.
Oh, so they actually, Maureen, were in a different folder. So they are there, and so they just show the existing conditions.
Correct.
I see. Okay.
So go ahead, Carol, sorry.
Sorry, Wayne. So are you expecting so is this money for the design?
Yes,
Got it. Okay.
it's a 2-phase project, so we would be coming back. And I'm not sure how that works with your committee or CPA funds, whether we need to ask for it all up front. What we thought would be reasonable is to get if this is a project that you're interested in, we would get a real quote from the designer so that we know what that number is. And then we won't know the cost of the work until the designers design it. And then we thought we'd
Sure.
get back. So we're just guessing 5,000 and 30,000. So however you'd like us to proceed with that.
So how much is the design aspect of it?
We're guessing it's 5,000.
Austin is currently working with the town and the town administrator on the driveway side for a drainage, a walkway, and the parking. And so not only do we have a million pieces of paper that Austin has designed in the work that they did on the 1870 addition, and all the measurements and stuff that they did, but they're also already working on the driveway and the drainage. So they'll be out there taking measurements and stuff. So we assume it'll only be a $5,000 cost.
So the 2 files that, oh, you know what? I think I'm reading these wrong. Okay. Excellent. Just user error on this end.
Other
No.
questions?
Yeah.
I guess my question is, as we future talk about it, is does it really need to get separated into 2? Because if 30,000 is such a guesstimate, and then you have to come back and ask for more later, I don't know, that's, I guess, the committee's decision to what we would ask or recommend later on, but if there's no way to make a reasonable estimate, because my question was going to be, when, if the design, if it's going to get approved to town meeting in May, then, what's the timeline to, do the design, do the estimate and all that, and then when would the work commence? Because I think that's the hard part, is that if you go through, it doesn't get approved till spring, depending on, how long it takes to, fund it, that kind of a thing. It could be like 2 years or more before.
So in the application, the start date is July 1st, which of course is the first time the funds are available. The
Right.
complete date for what I assume is this first stage is December 1st, which is the essentially, I mean, if it's
Deadline.
if you backed up a month to November 1st, it would allow them to come in with a proposal for the 2026 CPA
Sure.
funding for the
Mhm.
completion of the project in 2026.
Right.
2026, yeah. Is that basically what you guys are thinking about?
That's
Yeah.
what we're thinking, yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm
so all
sorry,
you're
I'm sorry I
asking
didn't read
for
it
is
clear.
the 5 this time.
Right. Because it seems very, very difficult to come up with any reasonable figure given the complexity of
Right.
the project. I mean, it's not like a standard, along the side of a building and into the front door like the library, where somebody could probably give you an estimate pretty quickly, whereas this is a design that is probably going to be unique.
Yeah, are they gonna have to
anything we've
move a
seen
bunch of
before.
earth or increase,
Right.
the earth in the front of the building? I mean, if we had an idea, we could just say we wanted to execute an idea. The problem is we can't come up with a real viable idea with our basis of knowledge.
Okay. So sorry I didn't read it close enough, but I guess then, we can adjust it, whatever, later on, but I just think it makes sense to go for just that piece now. So phase 2, this is phase 1.
So what you need from us when we meet again is some clearer indication as to whether we think this first phase is fundable
Right.
through CPA, and then you'd proceed in trying to find out from Austin what the estimate would be for the design. You're hesitant to ask Austin for a figure
Yeah.
prior to our saying to you, we think it's fundable, right?
Correct.
Any other questions?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
My main concern, and I'm sure you guys have thought about this, and I don't know that there's any way to overcome it, is that at town meeting, people might want to see some sort of concept before they approve money. But if you don't have any sort of, I totally understand the situation you guys are in.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I mean,
I don't.
how do you give a concept when you don't have a concept? I mean, like
Right.
that's the whole point of the money, to get a good concept versus something that people are gonna maybe not like, and it would never even turn out like what somebody's suggesting. I guess I would, just the specifics on where, if it's going to be in that area, or maybe it's carte blanche. She's just going to look at the whole front and make a decision. So, I mean, to me,
I think if you talk
Well,
to.
I think we're
Go ahead.
committed. Yeah, sorry, Mary. We're committed to retaining the granite steps as a historical.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
I think if, by stating that,
that's without a doubt. So, and then, we want to work with Complete Streets, that's all going to get redone, and everyone agrees that it's no good walking up Faith's driveway. So, it's somehow in between that what's currently there and the granite steps, some sort of, this thing.
Some sort of
That's-
very,
like that.
and
But,
maybe it
how
has
does
to
that
go
really
up
look? I don't know.
and go left and go right.
Yeah.
But right now, if you talk to seniors in town, and we tell them, hey, the town put a lot of money into this building. We have this great elevator. It's accessible. They say, yeah, but I park on Woodward Ave.
Right.
And so you say, well, okay, I know as part of the paving of the parking lot and the drainage, Kristen is looking at a slow walk up that driveway, something that would be visually and actually easier for people to walk up who weren't in a wheelchair, somebody, you know, who might have a cane or something. But when you talk to people in town and the seniors, they just keep saying that the front is very imposing. And so I do recognize that not going to town meeting with an actual idea, but you know, if all these years, if somebody had a really good idea, they probably would have proposed it.
Yeah, but I think that given the scope of that, to me, if the price is around 5,000, that's a pretty reasonable and not. I mean, we've seen plenty of more expensive costs to design. You know, and I think the fact that you're saying you're talking to somebody that already has a lot of familiarity, so they don't have to bring themselves completely up to speed, so there's cost savings there. I think that all makes a lot of sense. I mean, you know, I mean, if you have to invest 5,000 to decide, okay, this makes sense or this doesn't make sense, you know, I think that's not a bad thing. I think the biggest frustration that I have with projects like this, and we've seen it in the past, is that people don't understand the costs and they ask for something and then they get the funding and then they have to go back and beg for more and then they don't get it, or it comes off strangely. So it just sounds like you weren't prepared. So I just think the phasing makes sense to me, but that's my preference.
Yeah, so my wood turning club meets there once a month. And the average age of wood turners, as you might guess, I am one of the kids. And I see it all the time. We have a couple of members who do park at the top, but it's definitely, it's an issue. And so I think, committing to keeping the granite steps is going to be huge. And then as long as the 5,000 is actually enough,
Yeah,
that's one of
that's
the
a big
good things. One of the good things about CPA is we get to say, are you sure you're asking for enough money? Instead of,
Well, it's sort of a placeholder for us because we wanted to just talk to you about whether that fits into your. I was going to get on the phone tomorrow with them
Right.
to get us a real quote, because I didn't want to have them go through that effort without, if you guys were going to say, well, no, that's not even part of what we consider.
I think that would fall under the, under the grid of total. I mean, I don't have the grid in front of me, but this is definitely sounds like the right type of proposal, right type of project. It's not a plan. I mean, we've had other ones that have had plans, for design and stuff. So does anybody else think different, that it wouldn't qualify? I mean, under those.
Seems like it qualifies to me.
yeah.
So
All
Yeah,
right.
because you can't, so I'm looking, I've got the page open, coincidentally. And, you can't have a historic restoration project without, so CPA legislation defines historic resources, preservation and rehabilitation. Defined as building, structure, vessel, real property, document, or artifact restoration. I think it qualifies. Because you're not asking to plan the whole entire, you're not asking to plan the drainage, you're not asking to plan the other stuff, you're asking to plan the very specific restoration of the historic front of the building. So I think because you're keeping it that narrow, it does qualify.
Anyone else with questions? They're eating into their time in their next proposal, so. Everybody's good?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's jump
Thank
from
you.
that.
We'll get
Yes?
on the phone tomorrow.
Let's jump from that to 19 Carter.
All right, so ready for that?
Yes, please.
Put it, I'll stay on as long as, tell me if it freezes and then I'll go off again. So 19 Carter is a 501c3, obviously not town owned, and that's a nonprofit organization in a historic building. So I was thinking it might qualify for funding for CPA. The project that I'm asking for is really small one. It's a oh, am I freezing?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll go back. Let's see if this is better. So the project we're asking for is rather small at this point. It's sort of a testing the waters in a way to just sort of something we need to do. But we'd like to see if it would be something you'd consider. So it's $3,000, and it would allow us to put in an electrical conduit from the building to the back corner of a shed which we have in the back corner, and that would allow us to put lights in the back area and along the walkway up by the, what's that called? Those places where people sit at the concerts, the different levels. So in the summer, we have concerts there outside, and it's dark back there. We have a lot of solar lights, but they don't work in the back because there's trees. So it's not safe. And so this is really sort of an accessibility project. We like to use the whole grounds, even in the dark. For a little bit. We're not like we're running things all night, but just for the evening of the concerts. And then in the winter, it would be nice to have light because it gets dark at 4:30, and there's a walkway that actually leads to the door, the accessible door, that once again we have solar lights, but they don't all work in the winter. So that's what we're asking for.
So you're a 501c3,
Yes.
and is 19 Carter listed on the State Registry of Historic Places?
No. I think
Right.
it's listed like somewhere, like I forget there's a category that it's in.
So I was looking at your
June-
application, so check all that apply. So I guess technically historical wouldn't apply,
Except that it is built in
But-
18.
but the way it reads is it has to be listed on the State Registry of Historic Places. Or the other option is determined by Historical Commission to be significant, which is a process you could go through.
Well, it actually is though, Tim. I mean, I can
It
get
is
that.
on the list?
Well, I can get you the designation. I had it in my head, or it's in a book, but June, it's listed in some list that's not the final list. But June has it. It's like we have all this paperwork that puts it. We didn't want to finish the paperwork. I mean, the paperwork's submitted, it's on a list, like if you Google it, it'll show up. But we didn't want to make it like finally official because that ties your hands so much. Anyway,
Okay.
But
I
I
can
think that
find-
but I think what Tim just said is that the town historical commission could
Right.
designate it as a historically important building to the town. So it doesn't have to be the one that ties your hands, but
Yep.
get it designated. I mean, if it's not already, I mean, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be designated by the town, but that's by the historic commission, given there's not that many historic buildings is left. But
I
Right.
think the problem with that is though, if you go through the historic venue of the CPA funding, then you have to follow all the
Right.
regs for historical renovation and restoration,
Yeah.
which does tie your hands somewhat.
okay.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so-
looking at the chart, acquiring historic is allowed and preserving historic is allowed. creating and supporting are not.
Yeah, so
And rehabilitate and restore.
all I was going to suggest was that it may not be worth your while to include historic on your checklist here. It may be better to use the rec.
Yeah,
avenue.
Looking at the chart, rec seems like your best bet.
So
Okay.
if we look at rec and you look at our projects allowable, right? So the question is, this amendment in 2012 to the first CPA thing that began to include rec suggested that other capital improvements to the land or facilities thereon to make them more functional for their intended recreational use. So that's your objective, is to make the recreational area outside more functional, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So that's the hurdle, I guess, that we'd have to address is, does that language cover what you're proposing? You're proposing this capital improvement, running an electric line, but that's what we're trying to enhance is the usability of the recreational feature.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right, not to electrify the shed.
right. You're trying to increase functionality and safety for the recreational use.
The outdoor recreational use.
Right.
Yep.
So the question for the committee, I guess, is is that a comfortable avenue?
I mean, if the point is that they have, events and concerts and things like that, which is the recreational use of that property, and it's not safe, and even the recreational use of the inside of the property, and it's not safe currently for people to use that pathway because it's dark. I mean, that people wouldn't feel safe using that pathway in the dark, then I think, creating the electrical service to provide lighting that people feel safe coming into the building and then also in that space, that to me seems to qualify.
Other
Right.
thoughts?
I would, I'm reading the, how this project benefits the residents of Berlin and meets the goals of CPA. I would strike the last sentence in that. I don't know how, if we want them to resubmit or what, but, it says it will also provide power necessary to charge our battery operated lawnmower and trimmer.
Yeah, I'd get rid of that.
Yep.
agreed.
So
Agree.
sort of get rid of historical and get rid of that last sentence.
Yeah.
I think instead of calling it a historical building, you could call it a community gathering building, that kind of thing, community function space, I think, because that's certainly what it is.
Right, and you're looking to improve the functionality and the safety of the outdoor recreational space.
Improve
There's no-
functionality
Um,
Yeah.
of outdoor recreational space. Okay, got it.
yeah. There's
Yes.
no need to resubmit. It's similar to when the nets and the balls need to be removed from a rec thing. We're still in the application. It's just that if an invoice was to come through for like the nets and the balls, we wouldn't be able to approve that invoice. So
Right.
just, we don't need to get a new application, just
Can I
when
ask,
it's updated.
Evie, can I ask a question? Is this just to bring the service out to the shed, or is this actually to do the lighting in addition to the service?
Yeah, it would be to do the lighting too,
Okay.
if that suits you.
Well, I'm
But
just reading that it just says it's bringing the power to the shed to make it possible to light the area. So I'm just, I think just
Oh,
to make
right.
sure. I think all it sounds like now is you're just bringing power to the shed. It's not, you know, and that you're installing, unless I'm missing that part. Maybe I'm just not reading it clearly.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it doesn't look like we put the lights in there, but yeah, we would
Well,
definitely put the lights in
Does
there.
does this money include money for lights?
It does. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, so I just think that's important.
So did you want me to resubmit with those words changed? Is that Maureen? Is that what you said? Or
Maureen said she's happy to,
Yeah, you can do an amendment. I mean, you'll probably be getting me that quote anyway, so if you get the quote and then just recognize the dialogue that happened tonight, I'll just add it to your application.
okay.
Because I'm a stickler about the date, so I don't want
think-
anybody to say,
I
wait a
think
minute.
I think they could just amend that paragraph, just rewrite the paragraph and say they're replacing the paragraph with a new write-up.
yeah.
The
I
date-
actually really, I think for history purposes, I think it's better to do an amendment after the meeting versus just making like this go away.
Well, it
It's
doesn't
just
make,
extra-
it's just replacing it. That's gonna stay in its place. You're gonna just replace it. That's an amendment to replace that paragraph.
Right, but
Redescribe
not,
it.
we're not gonna but not replace it in the sense that this page is gonna go away.
No,
Just
no.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
Add to it.
amend the
Right.
description, however, because I think like getting rid of the historical and all those other issues to make it
Yeah,
clear how it complies so that there's no question. Because if somebody reads that and says, oh, they just amended it, it's like, well, so they can just amend it by replacing it.
I don't like the
I-
word replace.
Other questions?
Amend. Well, amend be replaced. Strike the paragraph and amend it with.
Other questions? Other comments? We're a minute over.
Wow.
We're doing all right. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate all your work.
All right, Ethan, let's bring Ethan on.
All right. And Ethan did send a quote yesterday, so hopefully everybody got that.
Hi, Ethan.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm doing all right. My video is not working. Oh well.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and explain what the goal of this proposal is, and then we can ask you some questions or make some comments. All right?
Sure. So the Concom recently acquired a new conservation restriction for Horseshoe Pond, which adds to the Mount Pisgah area. And we would like to add parking there and like to make it somewhat accessible. Have a little sitting area in the field for birding and whatnot, or near the field there. And that's basically it. It's to expand outdoor recreation opportunities in the area.
Have you had a chance to fine tune a number? Yeah, you have, right? So what's your number now?
Yeah, let me find my notes here. Just trying to find it.
What you sent yesterday, it would be like $10,048, and then you cushion 5% increase for the next fall, which would be 10,511. And it's very
Um,
good quote, I have to say.
So that was just for the parking area. To do the whole area, we're also looking at fencing, materials and labor, um, a stone dust path that we can have compacted so that you can run a wheelchair on it, and then a couple of benches along with concrete pads. So with that additional work and the costs associated with that, we're looking at closer to 24,000. Sorry, that was in the email, but not the quote was just what I got from the highway department for doing the
Oh,
parking area
yeah.
work.
I apologize. I just printed the quote.
That's okay.
And so in that email, you broke out the way in which you came to the 24,000 figure?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now talk to us. You're having highway do the work?
For the parking area, yeah, and we're probably going to ask them to at least help, if not do the fencing. Some of it we'll probably end up doing ourselves.
So one of the things that when a project gets multidisciplinary in terms of the town, we ask that you get letters from the other entities. So essentially, Kristen Highway Conservation's already on board, but we need some sort of guarantee that that Highway knows that they're involved and that they're actually going to do the work and that this figure is,
Oh, they generated the quote.
Part?
I got the quote from the highway department.
I know, but we want a letter from the highway department.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
Essentially, we're looking for clearance and coverage. We don't want to go to town meeting and have some department that's integral to the project say, wait a minute, this is news to me. So, that's why, it's always good to make sure we bring up some of these things early on in the process. So it's easy. Highway's going to give you the letter. It's just that we want to be able to have it in our files and on record so we can go to town meeting and feel comfortable about what we're recommending.
Sure.
And what was the request amount again?
Total is 24,000.
Okay. And how many parking spaces? I was looking at the drawings and I can't quite figure it out.
It's going to be about 75 feet wide, and I think that they're not going to be lined or anything like that, but it'll account for probably 6 cars.
I think that's just good to.
Right, plus a handicap accessible parking space.
Yeah.
So that would be fine.
Except a little bit more, so, yeah.
I just think that's good to put in the descriptions.
What's your sense? The usage of that site has been pretty good. You sometimes have a good number of cars there, but you don't generally see more than what you're talking about here for spaces.
It depends. I've seen high use around the corner on Linden.
Right.
Like I've seen that lot pretty full on weekends sometimes, and then there's also the Northborough Smith Road lot which gets filled up. So, I mean, I think you'll probably see, a car or two there most afternoons during the week, and then on weekends I could see it filling up.
I mean, the question that we ask often is this enough? Are you being conservative in your estimate with the 6 spaces, or should you be thinking about more spaces and a bigger dollar value? I mean, that's the fair question I think we ask anybody that comes in with a project like this.
Yeah, we are somewhat hampered by just by the layout of the space. There's an old wellhead on one side as well as a stone wall, and then on the other side there's an embankment that drops down, which would require fill and dramatically increase the price of the project.
Mm-hmm. Good.
There's also in the conservation restriction, when we knew we would put parking there, so there is a rectangle cut out for that. So we are limited somewhat in the amount of area that we can use of the whole property for parking.
Okay.
So it's kind of using what we can in the best way.
Questions, other questions from folks?
If I'm not mistaken I thought from, what Stuart had talked about when we had the meeting is that, because the last sentence here talks about providing, even though this well, first of all, I don't think that this is historic, so I don't think that that's just for the same reason as the last one, that we said it's
Right.
not historic as recreation. But I thought that there was there was something about you can't create signage, you can't make signage in order to make something historic, or I mean, there's difference, I think, between the signage we're looking at to put, on to say this is a CPA project. I don't remember where it was written about that, but I remember that they said, oh, you can't just like put up signs to talk. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Does anybody else remember that? Or am I just like loopy? I thought there
So
was,
is the intention of the signage to talk about the Lyman School, or is it?
That was
Mhm.
something we were talking about, yeah. But I mean, if that's not applicable, we can strike that. I'm not.
I'm
Well-
not sure. I'm just asking because I thought I remember them talking about it. So I just wanted to put that out to the committee. So maybe we need clarification.
Well, I think that it doesn't fit into any one of the classifications where they're talking about actual physical property,
Mm,
either a building or papers or stuff like that. You can't get historical funding for like reenactment. You can't get it for oral history. So I think you're getting a little fuzzy when you're talking about putting a sign in for historic purposes.
Yeah, I thought he specifically used that as an example that you can't put signage up.
Right.
yeah, and we can check on that.
Yeah,
Um,
I just think it's worth clarifying. I mean, it's a recollection from an example he used that day that he talked to us.
But I think you're right. This one, as the other one, historical doesn't apply. So it's really a project that's coming down the recreation pipeline, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Other questions?
Ethan, I just wanted to point out that you said start date would be June. No monies are available until after town meeting next fiscal year, so that would be July.
Okay.
So I changed your application to say July.
I appreciate your attention to detail. Thank
It's
you.
just- we gotta pay the people.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I guess the other question I would ask the committee too is, it's not going to be a lot. Maybe it would fall under it, or we'll do it administrative, but we've talked about putting the CPA sign up in that area, but we wouldn't do it until after this is all done. So I don't know if we just want to put the cost of that sign into this.
That's what
proposal.
we've talked about doing is including the signage in these so they don't come out of our administrative fund.
Well, so I'm just bringing it up. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Do
We
you
can
remember-
tweak it later on.
Do you remember how much the sign was for this one?
Probably total, probably like 200 or 250.
Right.
I don't have any other details on it at this point, but I think it's around. I think the sign was 125, and then the posts were, so be like between 250 and.
So that's just an
well,
item
well-
you could add to the proposal, Ethan.
Sure. Absolutely.
I'm gonna guess it's like 300 would be on the high side. It's gonna be probably more like 250, depending on install and stuff. And if the
Good. Other questions? Everybody's good? Anything else you want to add, Ethan?
No, I think that covers it.
So, like I said, if you can get a letter from Fred, the procurement part have you had a conversation with Kristen about procurement?
So I talked to Kristen to make sure that she and the select board would be okay with us asking Highway to do this before we even asked Highway to do it.
Right.
And they did give their blessing.
So-
But
What-
she also was gonna talk to June, and I have not heard the results of that.
So it sounds like there needs to be a conversation that whereby Kristen ends up sending us a note saying that procurement issues and all this need is covered as a result of the way in which she's planning on putting this together. Because you got a $25,000, $24,000 project. If Highway does it, what does that mean in regard to are we allowed? And then the remainder of the project is, how is that paid? I mean, you got the stone dust path and stuff like that. If that's Highway going to do that, if the fencing is Highway, you know what I'm saying?
So this price was encompassing of all the fencing and everything else too?
So
Yes.
yeah, the 24,000 includes the parking area, fencing, benches, along with concrete pads to go under the benches so they don't just sink into the ground, signage, and actually we didn't add for that.
Okay.
The other item, but yeah, so it's basically about 11,000, give or take, was the highway department's quote for the parking area. The rest is basically an estimate on I estimated on the rest of it. I work in construction, and
So someone needs to have a conversation with Kristen to clarify the legality of this approach. Are we crossing all the bridges that need to be crossed in order to make this possible?
right. Are you talking about in terms of being able to pay the highway department, or?
I mean, is there a bidding issue here? Is there a procurement issue? Because I know with 1870, they ended up in a prevailing wage issue in terms of some of the bids they got. Now, those were from external sources. So this is an internal job being done by the town for the majority of the construction, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think what we'll do is ask the folks in Boston, Stewart and Company, to just clarify for our peace of mind that the CPA funds can be used internally for a town department to complete certain types of work.
Well, actually, this is sort of an interesting point because now that you're saying it, so does this price include their wages, or is this just the materials? Because their wages, they're already on the docket for having their salaries. They already have their salaries. So if this is being done on town time and this is a project the town's doing, is this just paying for materials and not labor?
It does include labor.
Yeah, the bottom part of that
Yeah.
attachment from Ethan's email yesterday has foreman, operator, truck driver.
Yeah. So we'll reach out to Boston and clarify from their point of view, and then you can chat with Kristen and just get some update from her as to how procedurally she'd plan on moving forward with a project like this. And then we can confer later in December and make sure we're all feeling comfortable still. Is that fair?
That makes sense.
Anything else anybody's got for questions? All right. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Victoria's in the crowd there. Let's bring her in. We're doing all right. We're only 3 minutes off. What do you think, Maureen?
I think this is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, how are you?
We're good. Maureen's happy. That's all that matters to us.
Oh, stop.
Okay, Victoria, you know everybody, right?
I don't think I've met everybody. If I have and I'm forgetting, I apologize.
You know MJ, certainly.
I know MJ, yes.
You know Wayne?
Nope.
I
Hi,
don't think so,
Victoria.
no.
Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Nice to meet
Wayne's
you.
been on the select board. He's lived in town all his life.
General curmudgeon.
He's a curmudgeon.
But he's
Yeah.
our curmudgeon.
Ellie's on the historical commission. Do you know Ellie?
Hi.
I don't
She's
think so.
been
Hi.
here forever.
Wonderful. I love
She
meeting
lives
all
on
the
the
people in
top of
town.
Sawyer Hill Road.
Yeah.
Beth lives at Sawyer Hill LLC is what I say, but you know,
The
his-
commune, right?
I think Sawyer Hill LLC
The
sounds really
village.
formal, doesn't it?
Village.
Yeah.
It's very
Village.
formal.
Yeah.
She's on the on the
Housing.
housing trust. But she's also helped the town in a number of other ways. She's been on search committees for town administrators and all that sort of stuff. And do you know Carolyn? Carolyn's on
think
the
so, no.
Conservation Commission, the Planning Board, the Community Preservation Act Committee. She's recipient of numerous awards from the Sudbury Valley trustees. She's
I
She's
feel
the
like we're
child.
all running for something now.
Right?
We're
It's
impressed.
nice to
I
meet
met
everybody, and I'm just
Victoria
glad I didn't forget you.
Yeah, I met you your first week at work, so I wouldn't even expect that you would remember. That was a long time ago. Mary introduced me, so that's,
yeah, way back.
like it's a
Wow.
while. Yeah, way back.
And MJ, so. All right, well, tell us
Nice.
about your project, please.
Yeah, so this is part of the start of kind of rehabilitating the library. So if you aren't aware, the library is 96 years old and it is starting to show its age. Starting last year, I believe, we started having issues with our front door. The issue was that it wouldn't close properly and it was not locking. So we had a couple instances of people wandering in when we were closed because the door was open. So we had the highway department come take a look and they made an adjustment. And then the door was closing a little too hard and it started hitting people in the back as they were walking into the library. So they had people come out and look at it and the entire frame of the door has shifted. So we need to repair the whole frame, replace the door. And I'm so sorry. I can't believe I'm sitting in front of you all 5 months after we started looking into this without a solid quote for the door yet. Fred started reaching out to contractors back in August and getting them to give us a number has been pulling teeth. So the last we've heard, they estimated on the high end $10,600. So I put with a 5% escalator, that would be $11,130. We did hear from them last week that they got a quote from the lumber yard where they were going to get the door from for a wooden door would be $20,000. So we're not going to do the wooden door. It'll be fiberglass, still keeping the same appearance of what the door is now, but a little bit cheaper. But unfortunately, we just still haven't gotten an actual quote from them yet.
That's wild. $20,000 for a door. Wow.
Right?
Yeah. And they said,
Just astounding.
they said they were also looking at, I don't know, it was something with like the kind of wood that they were looking at. I really don't understand what's going on with the contractor, if I'm being honest. I am involved with talking to them. I just don't understand what's going on with them getting these high quotes and taking so long.
That building is a town-owned building, correct?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
why do we not have the facilities expertise to do that work?
I think the highway department has said they can do it. It's Oh. No, maybe I'm thinking of the other capital projects we're doing. I can talk to Fred about it. I mean, half of it is just, does the highway department have time to do it?
Hmm.
I
Right.
think it's also, either way, I think it'll have to go out to bid.
Mhm.
So I can certainly talk to Fred about it and see what he says. I don't think they would be able to give a quote either because of having to replace the whole frame. It's, nobody knew how much it was going to cost.
Right, an explanation of sort of why that's so expensive
Yeah,
would be really helpful.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
It's truly been since August. It's crazy.
well, I mean, that's not that. I mean, I know you feel bad, but I mean, I think any of us that have dealing with anybody trying to get any contractor to do anything these days is so that's not the surprise part. I think the biggest thing is that I would just imagine that because of the price tag and it's a door, everybody's going to be like, why? What's the material? What's
Well,
this? What's that? Have you compared, then they're going to say, we don't like fiberglass. We want it to be more historically, whatever. And, so if it's the type of wood that they're planning to use, well, use another type of wood or like
and just to be crystal clear, it's not just the door. They have to take the whole frame apart and kind of rebuild the entrance to the building. So
sure.
So
Okay.
Ellie will help us understand the significance of including historical in this application, given the nature of what we're proposing. Because, well, and I'll let Ellie carry along. But I mean, if you switch to a fiberglass door,
Yeah, I don't know what, and maybe it's a good question for Stuart, but when you go through the historical side, you have to meet the requirements set up by the state for historical preservation and renovation and restoration. And they can get pretty sticky. They are going to restrict what you can and cannot do. But I don't know, Tim, and I think maybe it's a question for Stuart. When they're going beyond kind of you wouldn't normally put a fiberglass door into a historic renovation.
Yeah, because the communities using CPA funds on historic resources must adhere to the United States Secretary of Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. And I think there's a link at the consortium's website. If you go under is our project allowable section and go to the historic section, I think you can click on that and it'll give you some more information. But
I have a copy of it and I can't find it in my mess. So I can go back and print it off and read it as well. But
right.
But you do have a lot of constraints when you go through the historical funding through CPA.
It's
Definitely.
also available on your CPA plan, which is on the town website. You can link on there, and it's at the very end of the plan. Everything from then you sometimes have to get the historic restriction, and you have to go through this and that. So I think it's at the back end of the CPA plan.
Right, so I do have the coalition page still open. It says historic resources defined as a building, structure, vessel, real property, document, or artifact that is either listed on the state register or determined by the local historical commission to be significant in the history, archaeology, architecture, or culture of a city or town. So I think we could make an argument for that second category. But I think that's probably the only way that this project would qualify for CPA.
But then the question becomes, do you want to do that? But do you want to live by the United States Secretary of Interior standards in order to accept the CPA money?
Right.
So it would probably pay Victoria to to check out that site, and then we'll check with Stuart.
Because that's going to affect your quote.
Right, and
Yeah.
if the quote is higher to do it
The right
historically
way.
accurate, then,
Yeah.
you know, that's why CPA is here.
Right.
But,
Yeah. But you need to know that when you give them, when you're telling them to quote, you need to say it has to meet these construction standards, these materials, these, this, that, whatever. Because if you're just trying to get, you know, the best price for it, then that's probably not going to be. But, you know, but again, the town, you know, that building's had all kinds of history of what people think about that building. But but it is our library. And so, you know, so if it's going to be restored, you know, then, you know, I think some people would say, fine, it needs to be restored the right way.
But this is a good starting point to sort of engage in the whole conversation about if we're really talking about a restoration project that's going to be historically appropriate, and you want to use CPA money for other parts of that process, it's good that we get this squared away now and addressed with the consortium and stuff, and make sure that we're not misstepping. So we'll do some research, and you can do some more research, and
Yeah, absolutely.
maybe you'll have some more figures from your
I hope so.
other door materials, right? Yeah.
I guess so.
They want to do
The
the door out of
recreation
teak or
aspect
something
off?
like that?
Oh, sorry.
Did they want to do the door out of teak or mahogany or something?
Something.
Actually, I have the old library door here at the farm.
Oh, my God.
We'll just put that one back on.
And so perhaps we could return that. I've taken care of it. It's been painted. I did cut it down a little bit, but so it may not fit anymore, but yeah, we can talk, right?
You have to rebuild the frame anyway. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
right? Yeah.
What were you going to say, Victoria?
I was just gonna ask, do you guys think historic is the only way to go about this? Does the library fit into recreation at all? I got kind of a gray area when I was looking at yeah.
Outdoor recreation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just had to ask.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
it's always worth thinking about,
Yeah.
but yeah, it doesn't.
Right. But all of this is exactly why we asked the applications to be in so far ahead of the time that we need to decide, so
Right.
that there's
Yeah.
time to figure all these things out.
Because the deadline, so if this was going to get approved, just to give Victoria the deadline to have more of a correct price is what, January, February? What's the time for the town warrant?
Yeah, I mean, the
Probably?
warrant will close probably the second week of February. So, you know, we've got 2.5 months essentially almost. But that's why getting squared away now makes so much sense, because as you've witnessed, trying to get figures is not always easy. So, yeah.
Thanks.
Other
But
questions or
if
comments?
you are able to do it as a historical project, and you know, have the parameters of what the door needs to be, and you tell the contractor, you know, we're going to do this right. You know, it might, if there's somebody who wants to be involved in a historical project, that can be a little bit more of an incentive instead of someone who's just replacing a door.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
put a little spin on it.
Make it a special project.
Exactly.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
will be honored.
Other questions? All right, so we've got some homework. We can do that, and we meet again the 19th of is that what it is?
17th,
17th?
yeah.
So
And
we'll be in
Victoria,
touch. We may very well invite you back to that meeting. Go ahead, Maureen. Tell me.
I just wanted to let her also, I updated your start date. Can't be before July 1st, where you said the spring says.
Yeah.
So I just changed your application as
I
far
see.
as that.
Oh,
Okay.
did I do the wrong year? I meant to say spring of, after June, because I figured it has to go out to bid and then. or
Yeah,
after
it's,
July,
well,
it has to go out
there's
to
no
bid and
money
then-
until July 1, so I just.
Yeah,
just-
yeah. Not this upcoming spring, the next following spring is what I,
Oh, you
Oh.
want,
yeah,
Oh,
Spring of 26.
okay.
then really make sure the inflation, because, you know, now we don't know what's going to happen with pricing and everything else and materials in 2025. So it
That
could
is not
definitely
well.
increase.
yeah, good point.
You don't want to end up short.
Right.
Yeah, this is one of the few places you're going to end up with folks saying, have you asked for enough?
Well, because the
But-
money will come back, but
We've
That's a
we've
real
had
change to the library, so that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've had a couple projects where we've asked that question, and as a result, people have come back and modified based on, you know, better information. So that's the approach to use, certainly. Great. No other questions? Everybody's good? Thank you, Victoria.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Have a
Nice
good
to meet
evening.
you.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ethan, I should have made sure that you knew all these people. I introduced them for Victoria, so you probably overheard that, so it sufficed, I hope. All right. Did that work for folks?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think we fleshed out some of the questions that we've got.
After town
And-
meeting and I become official, I hope, Maureen, maybe you'll send me the whole pile of things so I can read them.
We could send them to you anyway.
Yeah, I could send them to you
Before.
anyways, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, now that we're gonna get updates, we might as well wait for those, but I just wanted to check and make sure
Yeah,
I would get them at some point. I didn't.
yeah, and I'll make sure that you have it's gonna be in the powder house, but I'll make sure you have that criteria chart, that's really helpful.
Thank you.
The plan is actually on the town, website.
I pulled that down today, so I've had
Yeah,
that.
okay, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I find the page that's on the coalition website a little bit better. It has the chart, but it also has words,
yes.
We like
more
words.
words.
So that would be found in the slides that Stuart used in May. I put those up on the website too, but
Right.
it's in his slides, yeah. But yeah, I'll get you everything, Beth, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, that's into that. Chair updates. I'm gonna reach out to Rec and ask if they want to appoint somebody to the committee. And I met with the Housing Trust the other day, and we shared some of the consortium's language in regard to setting up an agreement in regard to the funds that travel from CPA to the Housing Trust. So they're gonna look into that. I think the suggestion was made that the Mass Housing Partnership or whatever has reacted differently to the way in which agreements are set up, so that we'll probably have some good discussion about what's most appropriate. I think the housing groups feel the less restrictive the language in an agreement, the better, which of course would make sense from that side. So, you know, we'll flesh that out as we go through the fall, or the winter here probably. So hopefully we can get something squared away by the early in the new year. Beth, did you go to that meeting where they reviewed contractual arrangements between CPA and that was okay.
I did not.
Powder House News we've done, and any public, there's no public in the audience, so we don't have to have public input. The next meeting is December 17th, 7:30. What
And
am I
how,
missing?
well, how do you want to manage the December 17th? Are we inviting anybody back for discussions? Or is it just going to be for you folks to have discussions, or what like how are you seeing that meeting look?
We've all
Like,
said,
hopefully the applicants will keep sending us stuff in, and I'll be more than happy to reach out to them to see if there are any, new documents or, because it sounds like everybody does have a little bit of homework to send some more stuff into the committee.
so the next time we'd meet after December 17th is January,
7th.
and that gives us a month before town meeting.
Not as fortunate as last year where we had an extra Tuesday.
So the question is there someone that we want to bring back in on the 17th? Because there's really a need for greater clarification and discussion.
Well, I don't think Victoria really is clear on where she wants to go with this. So
we could leave it an open invitation to Victoria to come back if she's got more information to share with us regarding her thoughts on whether to go the historic route or not.
Well, I could go ahead and send in, let's see. Oh, having Thanksgiving and Christmas so close really makes me anxious. But nonetheless, I could, on the 11th, reach out to all 5 applicants to confirm what they may have had for me to send out in the meeting packets on the 12th. And then in that same email, ask, would you like to come in? So all 5 would have that opportunity.
Can I just ask a question? I'm sorry. I keep,
No.
I'm not. Okay, well, I don't have to.
No, of course you have to ask a question.
Of course you
Yes,
can ask questions.
Because I think when I hear this stuff, it doesn't always occur to me when I'm looking at stuff. But thinking about, we've talked about capital improvements. I mean, that's a facility of the town. So to fix that building is really a capital improvement. So I guess my only question would be to her. I mean, CPA money it's not a free pot. It's taxpayer money plus, this fund. So it's like, so if they're going to weigh, I don't know if we left Victoria with the idea of, okay, if you go through us, you have to meet and jump through all these historic hoops in order to meet the criteria, and the price could triple, quadruple, whatever. I mean, maybe the town doesn't want to do a fiberglass door, but would be willing to do something that's in keeping, but doesn't have to meet all those restrictions. Is that something to go to talk to capital improvement to go and say, okay, are you willing to fund this? Because one way or the other, the town needs to have a door on that building that makes sense. I mean, it's like, maybe they aren't going to want to meet historical, but, I guess I would sort of be interested to know if it was done in a good way. Maybe I didn't love hearing fiberglass. I'm not sure if that seems appropriate on that building, but, but something that's, more appealing, but not necessarily historically required, because if somebody said, okay, it's going to be 15,000 if we do it that way versus 30,000 if you do it through CPA, I'm like, yeah. I mean, town people are fruit, and somebody's going to ask that question. I think they're going to say, well, what if it wasn't historic? You know what I mean? So that was just a thought more about her project, but that's, I don't know if she's gone that path. And, we talk about, making sure that they've done some skin in the game or whatever. So like, have they considered what are the alternatives? I mean, I've been the big mouth saying, I don't know that it makes sense to, fund a recreation plan, although that's not on our docket, if there's other funding somewhere else to provide that funding. So that's all. That's what I have to say. But I don't know.
And I just, as an admin, say something. As an admin, what I could say is from other communities, they would normally have them go talk to the Conservation Commission, find out what their next agenda is. And those are the experts in town that can, like Ellie said a lot of it tonight, but to have your whole, committee say that. So a lot of times, and then there could be a vote, like, yes, we support it if it is, you know, a green door with, you know, black hinges, like, you know, how historic people can be. So a lot of times going to those other committees or capital improvements and that, but a lot of times, like, you would go to the people that would have best interest in what the project might have.
Well, your
Like-
your point's well taken, though. We can't designate it a historic building. If she goes to historical committee and they say, we're not going to designate it, that's the end of the story, right then and there.
Right, right. So usually her next step might be to go to Ellie's group and try to get on one of their agendas and talk with the experts on that. Or, and does she have, you must have library trustees in town, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, they should
Okay,
be involved too.
So there should be some sort of meeting with them too on what their thoughts are.
Yeah, that would make sense. I'd want to know that they're on board with whatever the plan is.
Yeah.
Do we know if this is on the state list of historic places?
Ellie, do you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we just found Victoria about 5 other things. she has
So
to-
That's not, but I don't know.
it seems like Victoria and Ethan definitely need to come back, and probably having them come back. I mean, I think we should offer the opportunity to everybody, but I think in terms of Victoria and Ethan, they do need to come back to us on the 17th. Because
The
there's
notes are,
information that we
I mean,
need.
I don't think the historic clothing, you know, unless you want some letters or some photographs just to help with
Right.
town meeting.
I
This
mean, I think,
town hall seemed fine, but I think 19 Carter, and we're gonna get more stuff from them anyway, so she might just want to come and explain. So I would say 3 of your applications could possibly come back on the 17th. But I'll put it out to everybody and see what they might have.
yeah, and you know, I'm certainly willing to help say hello to June and to Evie and just say, you know, to June, it's not necessary that she come back unless she's got some significant new information, and Evie probably in regard to the town hall as well.
So who's going to give the additional feedback to Victoria?
So
I can send her an email.
yeah, you can send her an email saying we'd
Yeah,
like her to come back on the 17th, and the same with Ethan and Evie for the
Okay.
19 Carter.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying all the additional things we said that she needs to go
Yeah,
over.
I'll do a separate email to Victoria
Thanks.
tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks.
And
This is why it's
especially
great to
for
have
someone
you.
that used to support a historic district, the fussiness about which yellow we're using. It's a,
Right.
right, Ellie?
I don't
It's a
know what
lot.
she's saying.
It's like, yeah. So, yeah, I can definitely reach out to her and give her some guidance on that. And those, she probably should maybe try to touch base with both of those. Does anybody else need to go to Capitol, you think?
There's no maintenance in any of these other projects like there was with the field, so
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything like that.
I'll reach out to Kristen and just let her know that of our concerns on these 2 particular projects, and let her know that she should be hearing from those folks, I would think, so.
And the parking of Horseshoe Pond, is that applicable?
Applicable in what way?
Is-
What do you mean?
In regard to,
Parking lots are okay to do for open space, I
Yeah.
believe. The only thing, like, well, we're gonna do a bunch of homework anyways. I'm not positive about the benches. So we'll have to ask
Really?
about, I'm not,
Hmm.
you know what, I just know somewhere along in my life, somebody was complaining about benches in off trails and is it really open space? I don't know.
Well, I know
Right.
you can't have the benches paid for out of CPA for the soccer field.
But those are bleachers. It's different,
Right.
wouldn't it be?
Was it
It's a
benches?
good question.
Yeah.
Right.
Haha. Benches.
Benches and signs.
Benches, I know, right?
Who
Well,
would've
the
thought?
signs, the money, any money for signs is not in that quote. That I know.
Right.
That's interesting. So,
They
I
say
get-
Just need to-
playground
just-
equipment is allowed.
What
Right.
is?
Playground
Playground
equipment,
equipment.
yeah.
But that
Um,
comes out of, that's outdoor rec, I think, though, Beth.
but that's
versus
what
open
this
space.
is.
But this is
So that
rec.
would be, so that would be, have to be the question, like,
Right.
if
Yeah,
that's.
but so are bleachers for a soccer field. That's
Yeah,
just like nets. But that's because what was the reason for the nets again? Because it's considered what, equipment versus,
and,
those are
and,
consumable.
yeah,
Sorry?
not.
Say that again,
Does
Beth?
it-
The capital improvements, like CPA pays for capital improvement, nets and balls and things like that are consumables.
Yeah.
in
yeah,
this
but
town.
but a bench isn't consumable.
Well,
in the same
correct,
way.
as a capital improvement in the land or the facilities thereon to make them more functional for their intended recreational use.
Right.
That sounds like a bench is valid to me.
Yeah.
I am not an expert.
But why would we say
Yeah.
then bleachers? Were they talking bleachers or something?
I know one of the criteria was about like if for recreation, like if Evie was trying to build the shed that she wants to bring the electricity to, that wouldn't be allowed, even if it is to store things for outdoor recreation.
Oh.
Like buildings for recreation, I know are not. And so I don't know if the bleachers kind of leans more that way than not. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, the benches
Yeah.
seem cool regardless. It's kind of-
We'll do the benches one way or another anyway. Whether they'll last a long time or not will be because we can buy better ones if we have more money.
I would just throw out too. I'm not because it's probably a completely separate project. But when you guys were talking about the number of spaces and is it adequate, and I'm sure that would end up having to be part of the. It sounds like all those parking spaces, work together. The ones around the corner and all. Again, I never go there, so I don't really recall whether it's just dirt up at the other one or whatever. But what's
Right.
the
So this would be the 5th parking area for the Pisgah area.
okay? But this
And
is the only.
the
But this is
4th
the
in
only.
Berlin.
But this is the only paved one. The other one's not really paved, is it?
That is true.
So I guess that would be my question. I mean, you maybe
Right.
not
And
for
this
this,
is
but in the future, maybe somebody would say, "Oh, well, why?" They have to work together. So I think that's part of the argument. So are they all functionally better? But I don't know if. And again, this is where I don't know if it would be CPA. This is creating that whole space with paving up at the other one. If you wanted to do it, would that then be CPA or not at that point? Because is it considered recreation? I don't know. And that's all it's on the table. So it's just something for the
right.
something.
So
But that's under your.
rehabilitation is allowed.
Is that
So-
rehabilitation? Okay. I'm just.
I think so. If you were to pave a parking area that is not paved.
Oh, that's versus maintenance of. Got it.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
so
I-
okay.
they-
So does that mean yours is capital because of maintenance of that parking space?
Well, that's why we're doing paved, not wood chips or gravel or something to reduce the maintenance factor.
Got it.
Because I don't really want it to be. I don't want to put any asphalt there. I want to take it all out and put wood chips, but that's not very practical for maintenance long term.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it gets muddy, then there goes your parking space ruts. So.
Yep, exactly.
Just
So
to back up a little bit, the communitypreservation.org site under the stadiums section, equipment sheds are
Oh.
eligible
Oh,
as
Huh.
our bathrooms.
well, what do you know?
What do
See,
you
look
know?
at
But-
you send her words and she goes and reads them.
I go and read them. Sorry. So they are fixed stadium seating, like big, like no dog tracks, no horse racing facility.
Right. So like temporary, like the aluminum bleachers.
Those would be fine. Small movable bleachers seem very clearly to be included in here, but anything large and fixed. If this says you can build a pool.
But you can't build like a locker room to go with it or something.
You can have a bathroom, but
Right.
not right. Playground equipment.
We'll
monument
just make it a
walkways,
really large bathroom with
Exactly.
cabinets in it.
got the ADA accessible,
With
right?
locks on the cabinets.
Yeah.
I
So
think
anyway,
but I think it just shows the challenges that we're going to have with these projects,
Right.
trying to figure out where they fit.
All right,
so-
good.
We're having fun, Tim.
We are, but it is 9
None of
o'clock.
that.
Enough of the fun.
All right, I'll shut
No.
the page down.
Well done. Well
I-
done. We've
I
raised
have
some good
I have
questions.
I have no updates on the signs. I didn't get to do anything with it.
But I have an update on the sign. It's in front of the
Oh.
Board House.
Yeah.
It is.
Somebody
Yay.
actually commented on that and that they liked it. I don't even remember who
Oh,
now,
good.
but somebody noticed it and said something to me.
That's good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just see that as being a spring project at this point. So I'll make sure I get it done right and get the quotes and all that stuff. But I will find out for this parking lot one, how we call that one off.
Okay.
Okey doke. Do we have a motion?
Just one other question, Tim, in
Uh-oh.
your updates. Did we get any category of bucket amounts?
No,
Okay.
no. I'll work on that for the next time.
I'm gonna probably be in town hall on Friday if you want to pop in.
I'll be here. I was gonna go to Maine, but I'm not, so
Oh, okay.
Friday,
Um,
what time?
I'll probably head over about 10. I gotta be in
10?
Bolton between. I gotta do Bolton, but the reason I'm
Are
going
we
on
having
Friday.
donuts and stuff?
No, I'll already have had breakfast by 7:30 because I gotta be in Bolton for an 8 o'clock meeting. So
I
I'm
know,
thinking,
this is donut time, 10 o'clock.
It's coffee break time.
Damn it, now
you
I
want
want
me
a
to-
donut, Tim.
You want me at 10, right?
10:15.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, see if MJ will deliver some from the store.
Yeah.
I'm
10:15.
not even awake at 10.
Right.
That's good. I got to peel squash for Lowe's in Northborough. I'll go over there first and then I'll come back. Good.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you don't have to. I'm just gonna be there.
No,
just
no,
to
no.
do
I
this kind of
want to,
stuff.
debrief.
Okay.
I
Well, I think
value
you guys
your-
did a good job debriefing. It's every season it's so much fun. It's all different. Like it's never the same.
Yeah.
You know, not like the Board of Health, another septic. Woo.
Right?
Well, we're certainly asking smarter questions, that's for sure.
What'd you say, Wayne?
We're certainly asking smarter questions. We're not just saying, oh, sure.
Yeah, no, we're getting better.
We've left kindergarten and maybe we're heading into second grade. I'm
There
not
we
quite
go.
sure.
Maybe third.
Oh, okay.
Do we have a motion?
Motion
I make-
adjourned.
Second.
It's non-debatable. MJ,
Aye.
Ellie, Carolyn,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Tim is I. Eloise is in the boondocks here.
Oh God, did she just come in? Should we say hello?
I just saw her.
Hi,
Yeah.
Louise.
Good night, Eloise. There
No.
she is. Have you been there a while?
She's gone. You said
No,
good
she's
night
on-
and she
she's
left.
with us now.
No, she's still here.
Oh, is she?
Yes,
Yep.
I am here. I finally got in.
Oh,
Oh.
there you go.